Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Guided Podcast. Catherine Ann, our resident intuitive astrologer, is back this week and here to dive deep into the energies surrounding the upcoming full moon in Aries, which is happening on October 17th. So, Catherine, hello, hello. I am just going to turn it right over to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. So as you said, this is going to be on October 17th. It's at 4:26 a.m. Pacific time, so you can adjust for your time zone, but it's really going to be October 17th, I would say probably for most of the world. And what's interesting about this full moon, it is the closing time of this eclipse season that we've been through. So eclipse season starts about 2 weeks before the first eclipse. Then we go through kind of like the eclipse portal of those 2 weeks of the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. And then we have the 2 weeks after to just kind of close it out. So it's kind of like this 6 week window of really feeling that eclipse vibration. And then this is going to put, kind of like the bookend on it. But what's really interesting about this full moon in Aries is it's not just related to the eclipses that we just experienced in September and October, but it's also the bookend eclipse of the moon bookending the eclipse in Aries back in April of 2024. So the big total solar eclipse that everyone was talking about, we all went out to see it if you lived in the US, because it was a total eclipse. That was also in Aries, but that was a new moon. So the new moons, we don't really do rituals around eclipses, but they still do have that signification of endings and beginnings, where that new moon is kind of a new beginning. The difference with an eclipse is that it's kind of ready or not, here comes this energy. So we have something that potentially shifted or changed in the spring of 2024 that is now coming up for review, because now we've hit from new moon to full moon of the same sign of Aries. So that we're going to talk about that in depth with all the signs, but that new moon in eclipse in Aries, you want to think about what shifted or changed for you in spring, even if it was just a mindset, or even if it was just that beginning spark of, I need to do something different, because Aries is about me. It's about what do I need? It's about being more independent, about being more self-reliant. It's about doing for you as opposed to doing for others. And so what happened in the spring of 2024 where you got some sort of nudge that was like, I might be moving in a different direction? For some people, it could have been drastic. It could have been a job change, a family change, a relationship change, a move. It could have been very drastic because eclipses can do that. For others, it could have been internal, but just as profound, where it's like, I feel a shift is happening. And that initial seed was planted for that shift back in the spring of 2024. So now here we are, October 2024. It's the full moon in Aries. And that time of, what do I need to do? What's that fresh start for me, for my independence? If I'm going to pull you all the way back to that eclipse again, it was also with the North Node in Aries very closely, which is also about me. I need to do for me. And I'm being pulled almost in this insatiable need for independence or for standing up for myself. So that got planted back in April-ish, right? Around that eclipse time. And now we're here to say, how's that working out for you? How's that showing up? Shining a light on that process. And for some of us, we're going to know clear as day. I've seen the changes. I've seen the transformation over the last 6 months. And I know that now I'm basically harvesting what has come to fruition from those changes, right? So the beginning thoughts happened, the beginning shifts happened, and now you are truly in a new job, in a new home, in a new whatever, You've made some changes, and now you get to say the harvest. I kind of feel like it's look at me, look what I did. Like, you know how when a child wants their parent to watch them when they're on the swing or something, like, look at me, look at me. That's a little bit how I feel this opportunity is. It's like, I did it. And or I'm going to say or, because there's always that ability to not act, to not listen to your guidance, to not receive the nudge. And if I just want to say, like, if you're in a cycle with spirit where they didn't need to push you off the cliff, maybe it was a nudge that nothing really came of it, right? You didn't really act on it. You had some ideas, you had some dreams about, I want more independence, but nothing really came of it. It could be because you let blocks get in the way, right? You let your fears and whatever get in the way. Although we've had some really big energy over the summer. So I would imagine for most people, it would be hard to resist the pushing, because there's been a lot since that eclipse that has said, I have to be me, I have to be me, I have to be me. So, but let's say you tried something that you thought was going to be the new step and it's just not panning out. This also is going to shine a light on that. And it's going to say, maybe we need to try something else. This really didn't work the way we thought. So that's just the full moon in Aries bookending the 2 eclipse cycles. So it just feels like a very pivotal moment, because not only is it ending a 6-month cycle, but it's also ending this 6-week cycle. And how are those converging and coming together? Because it may have been that some changes happened over the last 6 weeks that were that final push that got you towards whatever seed was planted.
It's not lost on me that last month we had this whole emphasis on the me versus the we. And now this feels like a solidification of whatever came to light of where we need to choose me versus we, and where we lose the me in the we, all the me we issues, right?
Yes. Yes. And this is October. We're getting closer to the end of the nodes being in Libra and Aries, where we've been doing that dance. But with it in Aries and the North Node in Aries, we are much more focused on the me during this moon. So, and again, that could be, how did we balance it, or how did we go off the rails? So it's just about, did I go too far into the me, or did I stand up for the me, or did I not at all because I resisted every push that spirit gave me?
Okay, so one of the lenses you're suggesting people look at this is like, did I swing too far to like prioritizing myself to the exclusion of even considering other people on one end of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum being didn't consider myself at all, totally abandoned myself, or did we somehow find balance?
Yes, exactly. And in that balance, you showed up for yourself somehow. That's part of finding balance, is that you did show up for yourself somewhere, somehow.
That's lovely.
Yeah. So that's the gist of the moon. But there's a couple things going on in the chart that I just want to speak to. One is that this moon is ruled by Mars, because it's an Aries moon. And we talked about Mars in Cancer already in the last couple podcasts. It is going to be with us for about 5 months, because we're going to do some retrograde. We have a little dip into Leo. It comes back into Cancer. So Mars in Cancer is a thing for a while. You'll hear me talking about it a lot. So Mars in Cancer rules this moon. Well, that's kind of lovely, because Cancer rules the moon, Mars rules Aries. It's kind of this nice, there's some reception there. There's some back and forth. They can talk to each other and share. And Mars in Aries is squaring this moon and the sun. So it's a T square. So Squares are challenging aspects. The bonus here is, like I said, we have some reception here. Mars in Cancer, Aries, Moon. They can switch back and forth, and that eases that a little bit because it's like they speak the same language. So that makes it okay. Although neither of them like that language that they're speaking, right? Because Mars doesn't love being in Cancer. Aries is a very fiery moon. It's not this receptive, emotional, delicate moon. So kind of not their favorite places, but at least they can get each other. But whenever we have a square, we're talking about challenges, choices, obstacles that impact the energy of the time. And because this is with Mars, that means we're talking action. So, and because this is a T square, it's also squaring the sun. So Mars is just speaking loudly. Again, I feel like Mars has been loud for a while now and keeps saying to us, take action, take action, take action. Every time it says takes action, it's with a little different flavor. And we're going to talk about that today a little bit more in depth, but it's there again. So, the phrase that kept coming to me with Mars is that Mars is going to poke the bear. So, you don't want to poke the bear. Bear doesn't like being poked, but Mars is going to poke the bear. In this time period, there's going to be, just in the general population, aggressiveness, sarcasm, contrariness, competition, impulsivity. That's the feeling of a Mars that's poking the bear. And because Mars is in Cancer, those topics are all going to be, again, around some sort of like, I'm protecting and defending my safety or the safety of others. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we are closing in on the elections in the US. And it just feels like it's only going to get feistier with this energy, right? It's like people want to say what they want to say. They might be obnoxious about it. In this I'm asserting myself energy, right? In this assertion of the North Node, assertion of the Aries moon, and now we also have Mars squaring it. It's a little temperamental. So, word to the wise, don't pick a fight because everybody's going to be feeling a little agitated with this. And I have a feeling it might be some good news cycles if you like the political drama. So Mars poking the bear. But on the other side, there's this amazing formation in the sky, and it's actually lasting quite a long time. And it looks like a basket. It's called a cradle. And so it's between Venus, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus. So Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus, they're all the transpersonal planets. They really speak to generational movements. They're wider, they're not the internal personal inside work quite in the same way. So they move very slowly. So that's why this formation is lasting for a while. And then add Venus into it is how we get this basket. And what it really is talking to is that we are being moved through a collective awakening. We know we're being moved to the collective awakening, but I feel like it's maybe a bigger push through this fall season because these planets are sitting in this formation. In September, they were sitting in the three of them in this beautiful sextile aspect, all lovely working together. And now we bring Venus in to say, we want you to go through this collective awakening through the lens of love and beauty, through the lens of Venus topics. Could also actually be through the lens of money because Venus also rules money. But there's some sort of collective awakening that's being supported. It's this really beautiful, I've got you energy while we're going through Mars poking the bear. So I think that it's important to remember that because I'm not sure how smooth this is all going to feel, but on the bigger picture, we need to remember the universe has us.
It's they're flashing me to this concept when I was in my higher education days, where we would talk about the right balance of challenge and support. And that's almost what I get when you are talking about this. It's like we might be challenged, but through the challenges, we're also going to feel how supported we are, even in those challenges. And I think something that I've learned the past year with spirit is that mistakes are built in to the process. Spirit knows how we're going to act, right? They know what choices we're going to make. So our screwing it up and making mistakes is actually built into the process. And so just to give people permission to swing and miss if that's what happens, but also knowing that like we're going to be challenged, but we're also going to be supported through those challenges is a really beautiful way, I think, to maybe lean into the challenges and lean into the lessons and what comes up, knowing that they've got us on the other side of it.
They've got us. And I think that um, sometimes we have to walk through it to, we can't jump that going on a bear hunt story, can't go over it, can't go under it. You've got to go through it. I feel like that's where we're at with this really the month of October. I almost even really want to say this whole fall period. We talked about how back when we were talking about the Pisces lunar eclipse and with the Capricorn in Pluto for a few months, that's going to end on November 19th. We have this like repeating themes over and over again for this whole time period, like September to December, January, of it's not always going to be easy, but we've got you. We change is good, change is okay. Put yourself into the equation, we've got you. And I think that one of the things that is going to be really tricky with the energy of this full moon is where Mars is poking the bear is going to be uncomfortable because it's squaring your Aries energy. And your Aries energy is where you want to be independent and where you want to put the me in the equation. And this Mars is going to go, but what about me? What about my side of the equation? And that's where it's going to feel a little, you're going to have to either, what they gave me was, you're either going to have to protect and defend that your actions are guided and in alignment and you know what you're doing, or you're going to be called out by this area of your chart and you're going to realize I'm not in alignment and I need to work on this. And that's not fun necessarily. People don't like being called out. And, most of us who are more empathic and caretakers, we also don't like defending ourselves. We're really good at defending others, not so great at defending our choices. So that's where there's going to be a little bit of yuck. But like you said, this beautiful supportive energy on the other side. And I just got this image of spirit being like your cheerleaders, it was like you're going to, when a runner runs through the rope at the end of a race and everyone's cheering at the end, that's what spirit is going to be doing for you. You just got to get through it. So, what I wanted to do was go through each of the rising signs and talk about where is it that you hold that Aries energy that you've been really looking at for a while. It's because of the North Node, but also because that solar eclipse in April was there, really instigating a shift in that area. And then talk about where Mars is poking the bear. So what we're going to look at first, we're going to start totally out of order because I always end with Aquarius and Pisces, and they get sometimes the last of it. So we're going to start with Aquarius. So Aquarius, the Aries part of your chart shows up in your third house of neighborhood, communication, siblings, school, short trips. It's your little fishbowl. So what showed up for you back in April of 2024? Was there a shift or a change around these areas in your life? And I also want to say that they also want me to point out, so if you're an Aquarius rising and I'm talking about school, it could be you work in a school, your children go to school. It's not higher education. It's lower elementary type, K-12 type education. So maybe if you have friend groups or whatever related to school, but it's that local environment that you would commute to on a daily basis. So what changes were initiated back in April? And this full moon is now shining a light on that and calling you to show up more fully for yourself in this area. And where Mars is poking the bear is in your sixth house of health and wellness. So however you're showing up in this area of your life, are you doing it in a healthy, balanced way? Mars is going to say, do you have good, stable routines or not? Do you have this Mars in Cancer? It's protective, right? So Mars is going to be saying, are you doing what you need to protect your health and wellness, your daily routine, to make sure you don't get overstressed, make sure you don't get sick, because you're driven into this other area of your local environment. So and then whatever actions you've taken, are you defending those actions, or are you realizing you're not in alignment and you need to get in balance? So for Pisces, we're looking at the area that Aries holds in your chart is the second house of money, possessions, income, assets, self-esteem, things you value. So what has really shown up for you as the North Node has gone through Aries since July 2023? Was there a shift in April of 2024 where you went, oh, I need to get real about my income, about, what I own, about my self-esteem, and maybe pay more attention to myself because I actually deserve to partake in my assets. And the flip side, Mars is going to poke the bear around fun, creativity, and children. So we're looking at that dynamic between, am I having fun? Am I only focusing on what I'm earning? Or am I only spending money on myself and I'm not also spending money on my children and creativity and fun? This is where that intersects. So are you going to be defending that, yes, I'm allowed to spend on myself. I'm allowed to, do for me. I'm allowed to do things that build my self-esteem. Or are you going to realize that's gotten off balance? Okay, so we're going to go back to Aries now. So Aries, this is in your first house. This, since July 2023, it's been all about you. It's been all about you needing to figure out who you are. What is your character out in the world? How do you show up physically? What's going on with your body? This is the house of you. So during the eclipse, potentially could have learned about a health situation because it has to do with your body, or you're just working on how you're showing up in the world and I want to say, like, what they're saying to me is, do you have some character flaws that you wanted to adjust? Do you have some habits or traits that maybe you don't feel represent the person you want to be now? And so now in this full moon, we're shining the light on what work has been done since spring, but really for Aries, what work has been done since July 2023 on it's about me. And because the North Node is there and that's already the house of you, I actually would really wonder if for Aries, they struggled with more of the we than the me, because Aries already is independent. Aries already is assertive. They are going to do for themselves. And so I'm curious to know if what you're going to have to be protecting and defending is, it's okay for me to be like that, but I also need to do for others. It almost feels like maybe it could come in the reverse. And then the Mars is going to poke the bear in the area of family. So this could be something as simple as your dad calling you and saying, hey, we never see you anymore. When are you going to come to family dinner? Or, there's something going on with the family unit, the home, real estate, even because this even is like your ancestral lineage. So maybe you're learning something about your heritage, and that's somehow poking the bear with what you've been doing for the me part of you. Next, we're going to move into Taurus. So for Taurus, it is the Aries part of your house is the 12th house, which is that hidden space. It's your retreat, your escape, your subconscious. It's also the area of mental health. It's the area of hospitals and institutions. So for some Taurus rising, I would wonder how places like that have played into your life for this time period. Especially, I wonder what happened in April that maybe brought in some of those type of institutions into your awareness. Or did you start kind of having some deep dives into your subconscious? And then where Mars is poking the bear is in your local neighborhood. So it's interesting to me because it makes me think that there might be something in your daily life or in your communications, because the third house also rules like social media communications, email communications, phone calls, text messages. Are you going to get a text message that riles you up, that for whatever reason makes you feel like you have to defend the work you've been doing on your own mental health, or that you've been in a retreat mode and the people are like, hey, you signed up for PTA and we never find you at the meetings. What's going on? Right. So it's kind of like that, being called out, and maybe you have to defend it and make a choice. And maybe you go, oh, I really actually have been a hermit and maybe I need to come out of hiding. Okay, so for Cancer, or no, I almost skipped Gemini. I can't skip Gemini, Lindsay. So for Gemini rising, the place that Aries shows up is in your 11th house of friends and networks, good luck and wishes. It's a beautiful house. So what that means, though, is that for Geminis, there's a lot of work on connecting with groups and still maintaining your sense of identity, right? Because Aries is your sense of identity, your independence. So how do you stay independent and also connect with groups? This is a Gemini rising thing. So where Mars is poking the bear is in your second house of money, possessions, income, assets, value, self-esteem. And what I think is really interesting about that is I can really see how, if you have this slant of how do I be in a group and still maintain myself and my independence, I can see how Mars in the area of self-esteem could poke at that, right? So, but also I feel like you may come across do I need to evaluate, am I actually using some of my income to support my friends and networks and groups because I need this? Or am I not? And maybe I need to reevaluate that well, because maybe that would help balance this me-we access. So that's where you're going to find the evaluation. Are you protecting and defending the choices you've made to either be a part of a group or not be a part of a group? And then how does that really speak to not only your money and your income, but like who you are and what you value? Okay, so for Cancers, the Aries part of your chart is the 10th house. So you've been really on this career, reputation, and legacy journey since 2023. And then the Aries solar eclipse in 2024 literally could have meant a job change. They could have meant, eclipses do things like tower moments. They pull the rug out from you sometimes. So our Cancers may have experienced a moment where they were like, whoa, what just happened in the area of career, reputation, legacy. And now we're at this full moon and you're really getting to see what that was all about. So maybe you didn't understand whatever change happened in your career, or if you lost a job or got a new job, like what is this all about? The full moon right now is going to shine a light on that, so you can really see how this has helped you show up fully as yourself. And what's interesting about that is what's squaring it is your first house. So you're really truly being asked, are you showing up as yourself in your career, reputation, public identity? Because Mars is saying, I don't know, did you? Are you really being who you need to be? And so that's something that you'll be able to feel like, oh wow, this change actually really did help me show up more as myself. Is what I'm hoping, right? I always feel like spirit does these crazy changes to us to move us forward and to help us on our path. And so that's how I like to look at it. That, oh wow, I really see this. But if you don't see it, Mars is poking the bear to help you evaluate that. So it's not other people that are going to poke you on this. It's yourself. You're going to poke yourself. So Leo. Leo has the Aries part of their chart in the ninth house of travel, study, religion, faith, higher education, law. And so what we're really looking at here is I would expect that a lot of Leo risings have traveled because they're saying, I got to do for me, right? That's what this Aries North Node has said. That's what this Aries new moon eclipse did. It said, I've got to do for me. I've got to go out on my own and do for me. So if you've gone on a vision quest, if you've done international travel, if you've done, I actually know a Leo rising that totally did this, put a pause on their business and spent about 9 months really just on a vision quest of I'm going to do what makes me happy. And now that's interesting because it's wrapping up and now they're looking at, okay, what's the next phase? So the thing about this, where you're going to get poked is in your 12th house of retreat, escape, subconscious, mental health. I feel like where Leos are going to get poked is in their fears. So, oh my goodness, I just did all of this. Did I just blow my life up? Whatever your mental self-talk is, right? Whatever your inner self-talk is that can be pokey, that can be sarcastic, aggressive, that's what's going to get the Leo rising. And so what I want to say about that is you may have to defend your actions to yourself and really actually to your ego, right? Because it's your ego that's being nasty, not your guided choices. So we're going to move into Virgo. So Virgo, the eighth house is where Aries sits for you. So there's been a lot of lessons around death, debt and taxes, inheritance. This is the house of other people's resources, but it's also the house of deep transformation. So whether that's psychological transformation or physical transformation from this side of the veil to the other is deep transformation. So for Virgos, you've been on this journey of the example that I really keep being pulled to is, am I set up? Do I have a 401k? Have I only been relying that the resources of others are going to always be there for me? Right? Like, oh, so and so, whoever it is always takes care of me. Not thinking about the long term, because this isn't about your daily income. This is long-term assets, long-term debt and taxes. Or the other one would be, have I either paid off a lot of debt or gotten into a lot of debt because I'm on this, it's all about me quest. So where Virgos are going to get poked is in their communities and networks, their friendships. So their friends might be calling them out and saying, what are you doing? On the flip side, if you've been really balanced with this and you're making really good progress and you're, kind of structuring your finances so that you have things set up, your friends might be like, you're no fun. Why don't you come out? Come, and you're like, no, actually, I'm on a budget now. I've figured out how to have, a nest egg when I retire. And so I don't, spend all my money every weekend on just going out and having fun. Or it might be the other side where your friends might be like, hey, I love your new Gucci purse, but really? You have 7 already, right? So I think those are the conversations that Virgo might be getting into. Okay, so Libra, we're looking at the house of, for Aries, is relationships, marriage, and partnership. And for Libra, that could be no more lovely place to be, except that with having Aries in this house of partnership, there really is that opportunity to get into partnership with people who are much more me than we. You may end up partnering with the very aggressive, demonstrative, dominant person, and you're the one that's acquiescing all the time. That is a possibility with having the Aries. Or flip side, you can't even figure out how to do partnership because you always lose yourself. And so you just don't even want to do it. That's the challenge for Libra with partnership in general. And then to have it in their partnership house, it can be tricky. So where the Mars is poking the bear is in their house of career. And I really see this as kind of like marriage career balance. Are you hiding your head in the sand about what's happening in your relationship by overworking? Like you feel safer at work, right? Because Cancer is going to be your work house, your career house. So you would just rather, I'm going to make work my home because my partnership is a little volatile. That's going to be that dynamic that you're working through. And if you worked through this well, and you've had, some positive work on that balance of dependence, going from codependent maybe to interdependent in your relationships, then you're going to realize I love work, but I'm not going to be at home as much. I'm not going to be there as much because I'd rather be with my partner, right? So these are the dynamics happening with Libras. Okay, so for Scorpio, we're looking at this Aries area is the 6th house, health, wellness, routines. It's the house of illness. It's the house of stress and work, daily work. And it's also the house of your small little pets, your cats and dogs. So what have you been doing since July of 2023 that's really like, it's about me? So Scorpios really could be on a health and wellness journey all this time because it's like, I've got to set time for me. You could have brought a new pet in that was just like all you ever wanted, and now you finally did it for yourself. Scorpio risings also could be dealing with some health stuff. And Aries, because it's Aries, that rules that house, there could be some, kind of like hotness, some inflammation, like what you think of Aries of like the picture of fire, right? So maybe you've been dealing with some of that and you've been working to balance that. Scorpios can get very stressed in their daily life because of having that energy as their 6th house. So where you're going to have this poking of the bear or the like, hey, you need to look at this, is in your 9th house of travel, study, religion, all the higher education. But what's really pulling to me is this faith and divinity. So are you doing what you need to do in those areas to make sure that your health and wellness is balanced? And it really feels to me almost like, not like mind body connection, but like spirit body connection, right? Like, are you doing what you need to do to make sure your spiritual health is also being tended to, not just your physical health or your mental health? But where is spirit involved? And spirit may mean you need to travel, or you need to take a course, or you need to do some sort of new faith-based pursuit to get that into balance. And you might be saying, no, hey, I actually got this all in order. We're good, right? Because that's that protecting and defending. They're just checking in. Remember, I want to remind all of this that this poking the bear doesn't necessarily mean you did something wrong. We're checking in. Did you do it or did you not? Okay, so Last two signs that we're going to go through, Sagittarius, Aries is in your fifth house. And so something over that eclipse season in April may have changed around children, around how you find joy, around creative pursuits. And so even romance, it's not like partnership, but the fun, just having fun and dating type of romance. So that's a great place for Sagittarius to have all of that fun, because Sagittarius has a lot of fun anyways. That's just their nature. And so that's actually a really positive flowing relationship. And so this is probably something that wasn't too hard to go through. I mean, if you're going to have a sudden change of events so that you have more creativity and fun, that kind of seems okay to me. Although sudden changes aren't always easy for everybody, but the Sagittarius likes fun. So maybe that was a smoother transition than it was for others. But what's going to be poking at you is your eighth house of debt, taxes, inheritance, long-term money, and also that death and rebirth, that deep transformation. So, okay, Sagittarius, we know you like to have fun and having a great time. And there are some other serious things that maybe you hopefully we're paying attention to. This is just saying, hey, what about us? It's not saying you shouldn't have fun, you shouldn't be doing all that stuff. It's just saying, okay, so let's just hope you didn't deplete your entire savings to do that, right? And so it's just a quick reminder that the energy actually doesn't feel very tense to me there. And then Capricorn rising, last but not least. So Aries is in our fourth house of our home, our family, our father, our lineage, ancestry. And so we've really been looking at where is my perfect home? Where do I feel home? And for some, if you're in my generation that also has Chiron in Aries, and you're a Capricorn, that also means you have a wound here. And so I know I'm speaking from personal experience that so there's a wound here around home. And that's something that's been worked on for this time period. And so in April of 2024, when you had an eclipse, did you have stuff come up around real estate, around having to change homes? Did you have to move? Or did you start having that seed planted of a move might be coming? Because it's really more, it might be coming, right? Did something change with your parents, particularly your father? Or did you learn something about your family lineage that was surprising or that set you on a new path? And then where Mars is poking the bear is actually in that seventh house of relationships. So relationships, marriage, partner, so it'd be business partners, your audience, even if you're an entrepreneur. It's that one-on-one relationship. So it could be your clients. And that area of your life is saying, have you forgotten about us? That's what it feels like to me. Feels like that, yeah. Have you forgotten about us? Have you forgotten that it's not all about what's going on in your home and work life? Because that's that axis we've been on, the North Node and South Node, right? It's not all about your career and your home. There's also relationships in your life that are very important. Have you tended to them or not? That's what Capricorn feels like to me. So, all right. So we got through it. So one of the things that I want to reflect back on, because we talked about where is this showing up and where are you going to be poked? But at the beginning of all of this, I talked about this beautiful, like, cradle basket of they've got us, spirit's got us, right? And so I didn't say the theme at the beginning, I forgot, but here is the theme that I think is really important to remember. Now that you've heard all those things and Mars poking the bear, Mars wants action. Mars doesn't, it might be internal action, it might be external action, but there's an action with Mars. So the theme is we've got you, but take the action. And I think that that's really important because actions sometimes are scary, especially in the light of all these eclipses changes that have happened over the last 6 weeks, especially in the light of the bigger eclipse cycle that we're closing out. And then add into it just all the other echoes of different transits that are going on during this fall, where it just feels big. I know that back in August, I just kept saying, it's a lot, right? It's different now. It's not that it's a lot. I want to say it's important. So different. It's not like, holy moly, lots of change and it's a lot. It's take the action. It's important. We've got you. Spirit's got you. You're going to have some reflecting, what's working, what's not working, what you need to do now. But I think the bigger picture in all of that reflecting is take the action. You're going to be okay. You're supported, you're guided, you're protected. Take the action.
I just am in awe of how accurate these things always end up being. Catherine and I joke sometimes that we record these pretty well in advance. And then when we go re-listen to them, we're like, wow, that's how that played out. And so I'm already anticipating in my head how this is going to play out. And I can already predict some of what might be unfolding. So feels right on for me in my signs. But thank you for all of that. And we will put all of your information in the show notes as always, so people know how to reach you for individual readings and more support. And we will see everyone back here next time. So bye for now.
Bye.